But a decade ago, author and urbanist Richard Florida introduced us to the idea of the creative class, knowledge economy professionals who are leading cities to grow and prosper. He's not putting the brakes on that theory. His new book is called The New Urban Crisis: How Our Cities Are Increasing Inequality, Deepening Segregation, and Failing the Middle Class, and What We Can Do About It. Richard Florida is the cities director of the Martin Prosperity Institute at the University of Toronto. The book launch is tonight. He joined us in studio to talk about cities, what's gone wrong, and what needs to be done to try and bring them back together.
Good morning, Matt.
Nice to see you. You built a reputation, I think it's fair to say, on the idea that creative classes were the key to strong cities, that if you attract them, your cities will flourish. You spoke with mayors and councillors all around the world who adopted this policy. Why do you think now that you got it wrong?
I don't think I got it wrong. I actually think I underpredicted the extent of the knowledge-driven, highly clustered urban revival. And, what I talk about in the book is moving to Toronto, working with Mayor Miller at the time, trying to build a more inclusive prosperity here, and then seeing the backlash to this clustered urban knowledge wealth that resulted in the election of Toronto and Rob Ford, the original populist. I think that showed me, and then a whole bunch of other research that I did and my colleagues at the University of Toronto did, like David Holchansky and Alan Walks and many others, showed me that the urban revival was happening. It was happening at an accelerated pace, but it was also carving these huge divides in our cities and our society.
I guess the reason that I say got it wrong is because one of the things that comes out in this book is the unintended consequences of what it was that you were promoting. And people have referred to this new book as kind of a book of penance in some ways, that it addresses some of those unintended consequences. Were you surprised to see what happened after some of those cities, including our own, adopted the policies that you were promoting?
I think most surprised by Toronto. If my original interest in urbanism came from my original boyhood hometown of Newark, New Jersey, if my work on the creative class came from my living in Pittsburgh and watching it invent technology and the talented people and startups bleed away, this book comes from my experience in Toronto. And I think honestly, I underpredicted, and I think most of us did. No one could have anticipated the extent of this urban revival. And I'm not sure. I think, if you go back and read the record, in 2003, I wrote a piece for the Washington Monthly that said, look, alongside the creative economy comes this deep inequality, and actually showed that in statistical terms. I still think, though, the depth of the divides and the depth of the backlash was so strong and so powerful that I felt I needed to address it and really shift the conversation from just generating growth and attracting knowledge workers to really moving from what I call winner-take-all urbanism to urbanism for all and towards inclusive prosperity. And I think that's where the dialogue and conversation among mayors and municipal leaders and provincial leaders needs to go.
That winner-take-all urbanism, as you talk about it in the book, left a lot of people out.
It left a ton of people out. And I think that's what is so surprising. And people talk about the decline of the middle class and the rise of an affluent 1% and the decline of other people. It's really, David Holchansky was the first person on this. It's not just the decline of the middle class, it's the decline of middle class neighborhoods.
And so David has written and talked through his research about the fact that Toronto isn't one city, but actually three cities.
And I think Toronto is a great example of this. But in the research for the book, I showed that across all Canadian metros, but even more so across all 350 plus U.S. metros, the same phenomenon is occurring, that these middle-class neighborhoods are being eviscerated as our societies divide. And it's not city-suburb, and that's what's so harrowing to me. It used to be rich people in the suburbs, poor people in the cities, especially in the United States case, but also in Canada. Now it's tight clusters of affluent people in the cities, around transit hubs, in the suburbs. They're obviously very affluent suburbs, but large spans of disadvantage in urban areas and in suburbs alike. And that's why I think our new reality is no longer city-suburban class divide, but this kind of very distressing patchwork, what I call the patchwork city, divided city, patchwork metropolis, which is something we all have to grapple with.
How does real estate amplify that? We're in the midst of a lot of people say it, not an affordable housing crisis, but an affordability crisis when it comes to life in this city.
Well, I think you see it, Matt, and I think David sees it, but I'm still surprised at how many people don't want to understand this here in Toronto. There's still such an aspiration of becoming a great global city that I think that what you call these unintended consequences, these very real divides, are sometimes minimized in this city. So our housing prices, which are astronomical, we are the ninth least affordable city in the world. We're less affordable when you take income to housing than New York. I mean, New York may have more expensive units. So our housing prices are a big signal of the problem. And in my book, I call it not only a winner-take-all, but a superstar city. And as much as we may not want to admit it, we are a superstar city. We're a winner city, and we have both the good and the bad that goes along with that.
So for the people who felt alienated by the talk that, creatives make cities, that they feel as though, and that in part led to the election of Rob Ford, it led to the great divide between, the downtown and the rest of the city. How do you address that? You talk in the book about more powers to mayors. You talk about the idea of a basic affordable income. Those are things that in some ways seem out of our control. In this city, what do we do to try and stitch the city back together?
Well, first of all, I think we need to invest in creativity and innovation and technology for all. That's what's going to grow this city and create wealth. The problem isn't that, it's the distribution of that. So we have to build more, and we are, but it's not enough. We have to focus on affordable housing and affordable rental housing. Lord God, you know this better than I do. You've talked so eloquently about it. We need to invest in transit. But, the 66% of the workforce, the blue-collar service workers that are falling behind, they need higher wages. We need to pay more for home health care and food preparation and retail. And we also need a basic income. The good thing is, though, with Trudeau in office, with our premier who's redoubling her efforts on inclusive prosperity, and with Mayor Tory and the great staff there, we're in a much better position to actually do this here. When I look at my home country, the states, not only with Trump in office, with those state legislatures controlled by very red areas, they're going to have a much harder time. So I think we could actually be the place now that begins to make this move to inclusive prosperity. It kind of feels right for us. So that's what my work's about. How do we work with mayors and premiers and others, real estate developers, university leaders, to develop a more inclusive prosperity in which every Torontonian, every citizen can participate?
There's a lot of optimism in this book, which is important, I think, given the fact that the cities are like ours, are up against it. It's always good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
That's Richard Florida. His new book is called The New Urban Crisis.